Beef and broccoli is about to get a whole lot better. Egg roll in a bowl is going to get so much better. Chicken fried rice, it's going to be over the moon. Why? Because we are going to make Asian plum sauce today. Won't that be fun to have in the pantry? I'm excited about it, so I hope you're excited about it as well. Welcome to Grow and Preserve. I'm Carter. I'm so glad you're here today. Let's make some plum sauce. Isn't that fun? I think that's fun. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But we're going to start with 1 pound of plums. It says finely diced, it should be about 2 cups. So I just bought some plums at the grocery store and I could not find organic plums. And we are going to be using the skin. So I gave these an extra long swish and soak in some hydrogen peroxide, food grade hydrogen peroxide and water. But you could use white vinegar if you want, just to kind of make sure there are no icky residues on there. So I'm gonna fill up a 2-cup measuring cup with some plums, leave the skin on, finely chopped. So this will be interesting. I don't know that I've ever actually chopped plums before other than for something to eat. And that, oh my gosh, those are stunning inside, aren't they? Just beautiful. All right, I'm gonna bring you down so you can see. Okay, that's better. So let's get these finely diced and into the measuring cup. It's ripe, but it's not overripe. No, I can already tell with this color it's going to be a beautiful sauce. Doesn't need to be perfect on the slicing and dicing here because we are going to use an immersion blender on it later. Just when it's small enough that it can cook down properly. It's 3 small plums. We're already at a cup. So I ended up getting a couple of extra plums because in looking at them I couldn't imagine how 1 pound could be 2 cups, but I think it will be. Okay. See that we're at 2 cups, and that was only 5 smallish plums. So I had an extra 3 because I didn't think 5 was going to get me there. All right, so let's get the first 3 items in the pot. And then we have to let these start cooking for just a little bit. So we have 2 cups of apple cider vinegar, 2 cups of plums, and 1.5 cups of firmly packed brown sugar. So I just have sugar, well, this is actually allulose, but sugar, and let me see if I can get this out. And molasses is what I'm going to use. Well, that won't fit. So we'll just mix the brown sugar right in the pan. All right, I'm going to get this on the stove. I don't make a mess. And I'll bring you over and we'll get everything else ready to go. All right, I have the plums, the apple cider vinegar, and the brown sugar on the stove. That needs to heat for 3 minutes. And then we're going to add all of our other ingredients. I don't know if you can really see those. All these things. It's a lot of ingredients, but they were all things I had on hand. I didn't have to buy anything for this recipe except the plums. I did have to buy the plums. So let me tell you how many this makes. 64 tablespoons. I was like, what? 64 tablespoons. Okay. So that is 1 quart. That's 32 ounces. So 1 quart, 2 pints, or 4 half pints, or I'm going to do mine in quarter pint. So I'm expecting to get 8 quarter pints out of this, which I think is the right size for the 2 of us. But it's also going to, I think, make a very good dipping sauce. May need to be thinned out a little bit for a dipping sauce to like dip some pork tenderloin in, or dip some steak in, or some broccoli. You know, I know my kids when they were young, if I could give them something to dip their vegetables in, something yummy, something sweet to dip their vegetables in, they were happy campers. And with my daughter, if it involved soy sauce or, you know, tamari in this case, she was happy. So I'm hoping this is going to be a big hit. All right, so we're going to let this go for 3 minutes, and then we're going to add each one of these things. I did dice last night before I went to bed. I diced my onion, so I didn't have to cry on you today. And I diced up 4 cloves of garlic. So I'm ready to go. I think this is like ridiculously easy. I expect the whole thing to go pretty easily. So once we get all of this in, we'll let it sit on the stove. Let me see. Simmer for 30 minutes, stirring occasionally until thickened. Well, okay, that's pretty easy, right? And then we're going to use an immersion blender. It says you can transfer to a blender. I think it kind of depends how my texture ends up with an immersion blender. That is a little riskier for me because, you know, I tend to make a mess. But I think I'm going to try the immersion blender first. And if I need to put it in a regular blender to get the texture I want, then we'll do that. So we'll just kind of make that call when we get there. All right, I'm going to do this in the steam canner. So I'm going to get my jars washed up and ready to go. For as soon as we get all of this in there, then I'll get the steam canner, maybe not starting to heat up yet, but I'll get all the jars loaded in there so they can start warming up as soon as I turn it on. Sure is going to be a beautiful color, isn't it? So the other thing I should tell you is that if you're going to be cutting plums, now these are red on the inside. Not all plums are red on the inside. But if you have plums that are red on the inside, they did bleed on my cutting board, and I had to take some white vinegar to it to get it out. So just be careful that you don't do them on a cutting board that you want to stay nice looking. Okay, so we'll give that a couple of minutes and then I'll be back. Okay, this has been bubbling away for 3 minutes. So let's start adding all of the other ingredients. I'm going to link this recipe down below so don't feel like you have to try to keep up as I go. Let's see if I can not catch it on fire here. I'll put it over here. So 1½ teaspoons of salt. Cloves of garlic, 1 onion. Again, I didn't do a hugely fine chop on it because we are going to blend it. Tamari, let me see. 2 tablespoons of tamari or soy sauce. So I have tamari on hand, which, if you did not know, is a gluten-free version of soy sauce. It's a little bit different. There are a couple of other things in that, but it is gluten-free, whereas regular soy sauce is not. There's 1. 2. And pepper flakes, a teaspoon of dry pepper flakes. We'll see how hot this is before it goes into the jars. You know, it'll mellow over time as it sits on the pantry shelf. But if you're not a huge fan of heat, you may want to start with a little bit less, but we'll see as it goes. Okay, now we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different spices, just a tiny little bit of each, a quarter teaspoon. So we have allspice. Oops. Let's see if I can get this off. All right, finally got that off. So quarter teaspoon of allspice. Quarter teaspoon of ground cloves. Maybe just a little bit more. Quarter teaspoon of nutmeg. Quarter teaspoon of cinnamon. And finally, a quarter teaspoon of ginger powder. I'll go a little heavy-handed. All right. All right. Oh, wow. Wow, with all those seasonings hit the vinegar. Oh, the smell is fantastic. If you're not a big fan of vinegar fumes, you might want to open a window or turn on a fan or something like that. I happen to kind of like it. David can't stand it, but he's not here today, so we're not going to tell him. All right, so we're going to let this go for simmer for 30 minutes, stirring occasionally until thickened. So I'm going to set my timer, and we'll come back and check on it a couple of times. But that was so easy. I mean, that was really, really easy. The plums were nothing to cut up, and that was probably the most time-consuming part of it. So I hope that this one is going to be a huge hit. We'll come back and check on it. All right, it's been 30 minutes, and this has really thickened up nicely. All right, so that's what I'm going with. Now I'm going to use the immersion blender. And I tell you to stand back, but you're pretty much stuck where I put you, so maybe close your eyes. I don't know, we'll see. All right, heat is off. I'm going to try to do this carefully. Put this with the cord here. It's splattering. I think my pot is not deep enough. That's better. It's still splattering everywhere. See how it hit me on the hand? I'm going to put this in probably in a measuring cup, so it's a little deeper. Okay, that was splattering everywhere, so we're going to do it this way. Oh, it smells so good. All right, it doesn't need to go back on the heat, so I'm just going to leave it in the measuring cup. We can even put it into the jars from there, which I think will be easier. All right. I told you this was a messy experience with me. Look, it's all over too. Oh, much better. Okay, I want to take a taste of this. Yeah, this worked well in the measuring cup, which you can't even really see, can you? Let's see. All right, let's take a little taste of this. Oh, wow. Oh, that's really tasty. I don't think it needs anything. Can you see? See if I can get some on a spoon for you. It's really tasty. I think that's going to can out great. If it hadn't been for that darn immersion blender in the pan, there wouldn't be any mess around here. All right, I'm going to pour it straight into here. Now the recipe does not give me a headspace, which is kind of weird. So I'm going to use 1/4 inch. I don't think this one is going to be too hot after it mellows. It wasn't super spicy in this tasting, and this is as spicy as it's going to be. That one's a little bit full. With a spoon. The rims on this one cleaned up. I'm going to do these in the steam canner. Did I tell you that earlier? I think I probably did. I think this is going to be fun to have on the shelf. I just told my daughter, she's a big Asian food fan. She's going to be excited to have some of this when she comes home at Thanksgiving. All right, get my mesh there as well. These are new jars, so I'll use the lids that came with them. Hope for the best. I didn't check all these lids. I had one that was no good, so I'm not going to use that one. Okay. I'll show you the one that was no good. Okay, I had one similar to this, I don't know, a week or two ago. As you can see on the inside, see there's that little mark, and there is a dent, an indentation next to that. Not sure if that's showing up. On this side, it looks like somebody tried to poke it in from here. I think they were trying to get that mark off, which is just excess rubber stuff on it, and poked it, so I'm not going to use that lid. There you go. That's my problem with ball lids. That's the second one in, what, 2 weeks maybe? Okay. I don't think I'm going to get 8. We'll get 7 of these. Okay, so I got exactly 7 1/4 pints. Which is not the 64 tablespoons they told me I was going to get. It's really tasty though. Really tasty. I like hoisin sauce too. Do you like hoisin sauce? That has a lot of questionable ingredients in it too. Plus a boatload of sugar. Alright. Look at this. It's splattered all over the side of my cabinet here. Oh my goodness. Alright, I have mine in the steam canner. I'm going to bring them up to temperature. On this little gauge up here, I go until the needle is in the dark green, and that's where I need to be. And once it gets there, I'm going to start the timer for 15 minutes. When the timer goes off, I'm going to turn off the timer. I'm going to turn off the stove, but I'm not going to touch this. I'm going to leave the lid on for 5 more minutes, and then everything will be done. So that 5 minutes is counted in the processing time with the steamer, with the steam canner. If I were water bath canning, I'd first check my altitude, because you will need to adjust the time based on your altitude. I can include the altitude chart down below. So 15 minutes adjusted for your altitude at a full rolling boil, lid on. When that timer goes off, turn off the stove, take off the lid, leave your jars in there for 5 minutes. Okay? After that, we can take them out and they're done and they're ready to go. All right, we'll be back. I'm going to get this up to temperature. I think I'm going to crank it a little bit. We'll get it up to temperature, get it going. And this was, except for the splatter all over my cabinets and stuff from that crazy stick blender, this was a really easy, low mess thing to do. All I had to do was return a bunch of stuff to the spice cabinet. So this one was a piece of cake. I hope. Okay? All right, see you back here in a few. This was such an easy recipe to make. I can't even tell you. I mean, it was a piece of cake. I made 2 messes, one with the plums on the cutting board, and one with the immersion blender. You know, David tells me that nobody can make a mess in the kitchen like I can make a mess in the kitchen. I tell him that it's only because he requires more food than any other human on the planet. But he may be right. I had that immersion blender, it was all over the cabinets. Anyway, all the mess is cleaned up, it's back to being perfect, and this is done. So let's get these out of here. Away from us. I ended up with 7 quarter-pint jars. So they were a quarter-pint off on what they said it was going to make for me. Now we're starting to pop, so that's good. Let me get these out. It's a brown, it's a brown sauce. I'll tell you, it's gorgeous, but you know, it's brown, right? But it is tasty. Oops, okay. I was about to tell you we were waiting on that one to pop, but it didn't. I was going to tell you that was the last one to pop, but it popped as well. So everything's sealed. So that is really excellent. Let me see if I can show you this next to, this is the tomato jam I made the other day. They both look kind of brown on the screen, don't they? Sorry about that. They look really great in person. All right. Well, I hope that you found that one to be fun. I hope you're going to give it a shot. Put it on your shelf. Let me know what you think. I'll definitely serve it up in one of the cooking from the pantry type videos. I'll make David eat egg roll in a bowl. That's not his favorite. I like it. He's not a big fan, but so maybe he'll like it with the plum sauce on top. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.